This is the On the Touchline podcast. I'm your host, Jason Broadwater. Welcome to the show. Shannon Matthews is one of the good guys in U.S. soccer. At least that's my experience. He currently coaches at Seattle United in Seattle, Washington, but has also coached at the high school level, the college level, as well as ODP. I recently had the opportunity to talk with Shannon about his coaching philosophy, advice he would offer a younger coach thinking about pursuing a coaching career, how to work with parents, and other topics related to the game of soccer. Here's my conversation with Seattle United coach Shannon Matthews. But first, a word from our sponsor, Flipboard.
Well, hello, good sir.
Shannon, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing great, man. Thank you so much for the time, and glad that for as many messages as we've traded with one another, I'm glad that we actually finally get to talk to one another and connect that way. So much appreciation.
Well, thank you for reaching out. I'm excited to have the conversation.
Yeah. So you get the honor. You can walk around the state of Washington with the championship belt as the inaugural guest of On the Touchline podcast. So make sure you tell all your friends.
Yes, absolutely.
Tell your wife. And I'm not sure what that will get you.
Nothing.
So tell me a little bit about your coaching journey and share that out with the audience. How did you get into coaching? What sort of brought you into being a soccer coach?
It's kind of a funny story. I have two daughters, and my oldest was playing in a local rec league, and I was on the sideline being that dad. And I think she was 5 at the time, and I was complaining about the level of coaching and just overall what was happening. And at the time, my wife turned to me and said, either do something about it or shut up. And I think that was pretty much her exact words. And I took that to heart, and I said, sure, all right, I can do this. I played. I can go coach. And so I picked up a rec team. My daughter's 21 now, so that was 15, 16 years ago. And the journey started on a rec team, a boys and girls team, and has brought me to where I am today. I'm at Seattle United with 3 teams, all in the 9v9 age format, which I absolutely love. And then I coach the girls 05 state. We call it EPD, but it's the ODP program. And then I'm a goalkeeper coach and assistant coach at University of Puget Sound here in Tacoma. So a little bit busy on that front, but always love the opportunity to share thoughts with obviously with you and the Soccer Chat guys and the others that we've met over social media.
Yeah, that's awesome. So there's a couple things that you said that really resonate with me. My journey in a lot of ways is similar and a little bit earlier in that journey, in terms of experience, but same thing. I started coaching because my son started playing soccer. I said to myself, there's something about this game that I really, really like. And there's something about this game that I can see myself being a part of. And, have gone down the grassroots path that's led to the club path and who knows for me where it goes from here. I do have certain aspirations, but I also go into it very open-minded that, I almost say wherever the wind takes me, I'm just happy to be coaching soccer, quite honestly.
For sure.
So tell me a little bit about sort of the pathway, how you developed your philosophy, how you've become the coach that you are today based on the experiences that you've had along the way.
It's interesting because the word journey is very, very I would say that it's accurate because where I started coaching, I believe I was like my coaches. I was strict. I was used a hammer and sprints and running and everything that my coaches taught me, and I thought that was the right way. And there were points that I didn't recognize in the moment, but in reflection, saw that I was ruining the experience for the kids, and I just I didn't see it. It was, we got to work harder, we've got to grind more, we've got to gotta, and I started reading, and I started seeing a different idea of developing more of the mind than worrying about bigger, faster, stronger, and making kids decision makers and communication. And it really piqued my interest. And so I started really just reading more, talking more, watching other people's sessions, kind of challenging myself to open up and see that there's a better way, or to me, there's a better way of doing it. And it's brought me to where I am right now, which is someone that asks a ton of questions, open-ended questions, so that there's a ton of dialogue. And this is during training, this is during games. I really think that the moments that are there, that are teachable moments that need to be addressed. And if that means that it's in the run of play, well, it's in the run of play. No one's really going to care about a game in November 2nd in 2018. But if there's something that we can teach the kids that they will remember for the rest of their life, I'll take that opportunity during the game. So I strive to just understand kids, understand parents, which is also now kind of brought me into a kind of a psychology-based reading, learning about kids and reading about the differences in how girls process information versus boys. And it's a really wild ride. I purposely stayed this year in the 9v9 format because I really enjoy the age group, because it's still heavily technical. You start teaching a little bit of the tactics, but the game is still pure to them, and it's a joy to be around them. So the more I can learn about them, the more I can learn about how to be an effective communicator, and how I can get them to be empowered, the better coach I'll be.
I really liked your answer, and it sounds like the coaches you had are comparable to the coaches that I had.
Sure.
I always joke about, there's one thing that we did really well when I played youth soccer years ago. We were really good at running
Mm-hmm.
a lot and running fast. We had absolutely no technical ability, whatsoever. And thank God we've progressed a little bit. And the coaches like yourself and to the degree that I can on my end, are trying to really be students of the game. What advice would you offer for, I don't know, someone breaking into soccer coaching, whether it be at the grassroots level, the club level, travel level, ODP, college, anything, anyone who has aspirations of being a coach? What advice would you offer to them?
I would offer the advice that I wish I would have understood, which was to be humble. You don't know everything, and be smart enough to surround yourself with good coaches to learn from. I think in my beginnings, I thought I knew everything, and it didn't matter. I was going to do it my way. My way was the right way, even though it wasn't.
I was going to say, can I jump in? Why do you think that was?
That it wasn't right?
That you thought, what you were doing was, hey, this is the best way to do it, and kind of blinders on. Do you think it's because of the experience you had with other coaches growing up, that it was sort of the, let's gut this out and tougher? And
I think it's that. I think, or at least at that time, I didn't want to share anything. I didn't want to take advice. I didn't want to give advice. It was my little piece of the pie, and I was going to move it and do with it what I wanted. And it was going to be the best thing ever, and it wasn't. and what was great was moving on to another club, and where I'm at now, I'm extremely challenged by better coaches. I'm surrounded by great coaches, and we have a great camaraderie where if I needed to reach out, whether it's an email, a phone call, face to face, I have dozens of coaches that you can do that with. And for me as a growth vessel, it's immeasurable. But I had to learn to be humbled in order to want to do that, because asking for help is not always the easiest thing. But understanding that the benefit is not only for me, but it's for my players. And so at the end of the day, that's what it should be about, is the players, not about us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think when a coach has that shift in mindset, that it's about the players and not about us, that's really when they hit their sweet spot, so to speak, and sort of find their legs. Because the same thing for me when I began my coaching career. It's amazing. I would love to go back and have conversations with a younger version of myself and go, what the heck were you doing?
It's interesting because it also, I find myself more, the highs and the lows aren't there. I mean, they come and they go, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the emotional roller coaster, like when I was not where I am today, the goals given up or a bad game would affect me for a day or two. And now it's reflect, get what you need out of it, move on, because it's a journey.
Yeah.
And get the kids to get better. And it's so much better being here than where I was.
Yeah. Well, talk a little bit about that. So I've found, in terms of collaboration with coaches, it seems to fall in two camps, right? You and I have been able to connect with coaches all over the country,
Mm-hmm.
all different levels, all different experiences. I would say even worldwide. I've connected with a number of folks in the UK who I valued their opinions greatly. Um, but I also have found, so at the current club that I work for, there seems to be a really cohesive and close knit coaching community, similar to probably what your experience is at your club.
Mm-hmm.
Where coaches, there are definitely coaches who are significantly better than I am. I look
Mm-hmm.
up to them. I almost in awe of how they run a training session or how they manage a game, or I mean, just the presence they have at times with their players and how they get the most out of their players. It's actually pretty remarkable to watch them work. But I've also found in other instances where if I've tried to reach out to another club, if I've tried to reach out to, um, a fellow coach of some sort, it's either met with one of two sort of ideas. Some of them have been incredibly open and have said, Jason, absolutely, let's
Mm-hmm.
have a conversation. We're all in this together. And our goal is to make all soccer players better. It doesn't matter if they're your kids or my kids or whoever's kids. Whereas the another group of coaches tend to basically put a fort up and fortify it as much as they can. They don't want anybody to come in. Stay away. This is mine. That's yours. You stay over there. I'll stay over here. We'll play each other. We'll shake hands. But after that, it ends. And I'm curious as to what your experience has been with fellow coaches.
I think you're spot on. The willingness to share, doesn't matter where you're at, is a great thing, because again, it all goes back to what is the most important, and that's the kids. So if I have a club that I know a handful, or if not more, of the coaches on, and I talk to on a regular basis. When we see each other at the field, give high fives, give a hug, whatever, talk on our phones or whatever. It's a really nice environment. And again, it's moving the needle for what's most important, which is the kids and their experience in the game. Do I run across coaches that, like you described, have a big wall up? Yeah. And now that's like, in my opinion, I just sit there and say, that's a shame, and move on. I'm not going to waste time, my time, his time, anyone's time, trying to dig something out of somebody that doesn't want it. So just kind of recognize it on both sides. If they want to be open, they want to have a conversation, then let's have a great conversation. Let's enjoy it, and watch a great performance on both sides, and see what the outcome is. But I don't, as far as like not wanting to share with other coaches from outside the clubs, I don't do that. I enjoy the camaraderie for sure.
Mm-hmm.
The game can be, the coaching life and the game can be pretty lonely at times because of the travel, and you're by yourself a lot and you're driving alone, and so the more the merrier if you want friends. And it's, I think there's also something very, very special about having a fellow coach, or a coach that doesn't work in your club, but just reach out to you and say, hey, I got a couple questions. You got a couple minutes? I got a good friend of mine that coached here in Seattle and then moved out back to Virginia. I think we talk probably 3-4 times a week, and he always follows up the weekend with, how was the weekend? Talk to me about your matches, and it's just again, the olive branch being extended, and having another voice, having another ideas. It's a great thing. So I'm completely open to it.
Yeah, I've come to learn in my coaching career that whether it be a fellow coach or a parent or a player, that sometimes there's folks that just don't want to be chased, and
Mm-hmm.
don't waste your time chasing after them.
Yep.
Move on, and in the end, that's the way it is, and
Yep.
that's okay. I hope we, as a soccer culture, especially here in the States, get to a place where we are more collaborative and we are more willing to share. I think you see it in pockets, and like you
Mm-hmm.
said, we've been fortunate to connect with some really great people that are probably like-minded in a lot of ways, but also challenge us as coaches in terms of ideas or philosophies, or hey, what did you see there? Why is that being praised, or why is that being sort of looked down upon, or what
Mm-hmm.
have you? So let's switch gears a little bit. So I think one of the things in our messages back and forth that we've definitely found to sort of be one of the many common links that we have. So it seems that you do a really good job interacting with parents and sort of
Ha.
managing the parental experience,
Yep.
because and I, without sounding overly confident of myself, I think that's something that the team that I currently have, that we do well also. And I think that knowing that is such a big piece of this equation, especially for the age groups that we have. I have a number of players that are going to move to that 9v9 style of play here within the next year. Currently at the 7v7 with a lot of those kids.
Mm-hmm.
Parental involvement is everything.
Yep.
So tell me a little bit about what does a typical, maybe the build up to a season, what goes on during a season in terms of parent communication. What are you doing to sort of enhance and kind of foster that relationship with them?
Well, it all starts after the craziness that is tryouts, and all of that. So we set a team meeting after the selection's been done. We set a team meeting, and my team meeting is I've got it all planned out as far as what I want to say. I've generally already selected a team manager at that point, and then I know that there's 5 to 6 to 7 roles that I'm going to be needing as far as volunteers are concerned. So we roll into the first team meeting, and it's very clear and very concise. And we set expectations, how I communicate, how I'm going to communicate, how I'd like them to communicate, and which includes my phone. You can reach me at any time. The only requirement that I stress, and listening and sidebars, listening to your podcast, the first one regarding the parent that wants to get a hold of you. The only rule I have is, after any competitive event, just wait 24 hours. Instead of coming up to me about playing time or what happened in the game or anything like that, just relax for 24 hours. If in that 24 hours, if you feel like you need to still express it, then we can have a dialogue. But I say this because of you see when parents are emotionally wrapped up, they can say some things that they probably would want to take back. And so that's my only rule. But we go through a very good list as far as the season, what it will look like, travel, what that will look like, the positions that are needed, such as a travel manager. We do video every game, so the video manager and setting up the private YouTube channel and all that stuff. To we have a raffle at our club that needs to be addressed. So there's a lot of roles that parents can find, and one of the things that I like about that is that it gets kind of a buy-in from the parents, that they're part of the experience. As far as my communication with the parents, I do a weekly recap, whether that's we're in competition or not, because I think that it's very, very important that they understand what we're working on, so that if there is a competitive match, they can see that, oh, you know what, they're trying to skip that line, they're trying, that's it, that's what they were working on, and they can recognize those moments in the game. And a great thing is that helps teach them, which is a massive part of this journey is coaching the parents as much as we coach the kids. So in my recap, like I just wrote for my boys from the weekend, I go over some specifics that happened in the game, what I thought we did great, what we probably needed to improve on, and any other ideas that I have. It takes me about 15 minutes a week. And I think what it does is it saves a lot of guesswork with the parents, because they hear my ideas, they hear what I thought, and then they can say yes or no, or and then they're open to responding, and a lot of them do. You know what? Hey, I didn't see that, but thanks for the email. That's great. Again, kind of walking through this journey hand in hand with the parent, because at the end of the day, if you really want to just boil it down, they're the customer, and they're the paying customer. They're the ones that have the ability to say experience was great and they're coming back, or they can say that this was an absolute train wreck and we're not coming back. And I want to create an environment that every kid comes back. It's obtainable or even realistic, I don't know, but it's definitely something that I try and strive for sure.
I think one of the metrics that I use as a coach is spot on with what you just said. It's in terms of player retention. And so if I'm doing my job as a coach, and if I can get the majority, 9 out of 10, 14 out of 15, however many, 15 out of 15 to come back for the next season, I've more than succeeded. I don't care about wins and losses. Am I competitive? Absolutely. Do I want to win? Absolutely. But it's also sort of doing this weird, delicate dance of development and winning. And, so we live in a society where winning is emphasized, right? Other youth sports, the famous line from Herm Edwards, right? You play to win the game. And that youth soccer is different. and trying to explain that to a parent. So I really like what you said about educating the parents and that it is a hand-in-hand journey. I also think it allows that if you can build their trust, it allows for when those times that you have to have a difficult conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So if a parent is unhappy about playing time or uh, whatever the issue might be, it allows there to be an honest dialogue rather than, sort of guesswork and people kind of
Yep.
wondering sort of what the position is. Because I think if parents can realize that we as coaches are in a position that we're truly here for their kid and we care about their kid, we're not their parent, but we're darn near close to their parent, in terms of belief, in terms of, uh, who they are as people, what we want them to be later in life. We're investing in them emotionally, not only, in terms of their technical ability and, soccer ability, but who they are as people.
For
And that
sure.
I think if parents see that, uh, I mean, it just allows for so many different things to happen and whatnot. So, um,
You couldn't be more right there. The reality is that the majority of these kids probably won't play after 18, and um, our role and responsibility is not just to teach them X's and O's. It's to teach them, to deal with the stresses of, competition, whether that's a loss, a bad loss, a great win. I tell them all the time, we've got to be really good at managing the highs of victory and the lows of defeat, and, celebrate when we need to celebrate, but move on. And be not just teachers of the game, but teachers of, and what you find, if you're able to do that, down the road, you get an email, or a letter in the mail from a player a year or two, their high school or college graduation, and you're just like, I must have really done something right there, because
mhm.
10 years down the road, they still remember you, and they're sending you an invitation to a celebration of their achievement. And I mean, how could it get any better than that?
Mhm.
Um, I don't know that we do a good enough job overall, understanding that piece of the game, that it's not going to be just about the ball or just about the goals. It's are we creating good people? Because that's, to me, a big part of it also.
Mhm. I agree. Fantastically said. I couldn't agree with you more. So tell me about some of the best and some of the worst things that you've seen, whether it be, with a player, whether it be with a parent, in terms of behavior. I know that topic comes up from time to time, and I always joke with my wife that I feel like I could write a book, especially when we go to tournaments, of
Mm-hmm.
the good, the bad, the ugly. And more often than not, it falls into bad and ugly in terms of parental behavior or player behavior and what's tolerated by, fellow coaches or, parents of that particular child. Tell me a little bit about what you've seen throughout your career, that stands out, good and bad.
Um, I don't like focusing on the bad. The I mean, we've all seen it. We've seen parents go out of control on kids. We've seen them go out of control on referees or even fellow parents. It's it's that parent that is holding on too tightly to the environment, that they embarrass themselves and say some stuff that they probably, in retrospect, think about and say, what did I do? But it's unfortunate, but I try and create an environment with my parent group, or my parent groups, that we need to be good stewards of the club and stewards of our kids, and be the example. So we don't talk to referees. We don't talk to other parents or other players unless you're giving them praise. And I encourage them to give them praise. There's going to be games that we lose because they were better than us, and there's nothing wrong with that. and tell them that they were good. Tell the other two players that they were good, because they were. And I think if we can create more of that environment where we enjoy the competition for what it is, it's a competition. It's not the World Cup. And I'm not the new men's national team coach, and we're not living and dying on every goal scored or goal given up. So enjoy the environment. Create an environment which your kid had a blast, and that when you get in the car, you tell them, I absolutely loved watching you play. I think that would be, I know I would answer your direct question. I don't know that I really want to get into bad moments. I think for me, if we can create that environment of it was a fantastic day. And then the kid says, I can't wait to get back to training. Then we've done something right. We've all seen the environments where, the kid doesn't want to go to training. Well, why is that? Well, it's not fun. Well, what's not fun about it? Well, all we do is stand around, or we run, or we do the same thing over and over and over. The kid, your child's desire to go to training should be one of, I love training as much as I love going to games. And if not, then what are we doing? What are we doing as coaches? Because, we play a 1 hour game on a weekend, but we have them for, at least for me, we have them for 4.5 hours during the week. So the majority of time is training. And so our training should reflect not only fun, but hard work and expectations and goals and all of that. And that for me is, if you can see success in your club, in your trainings, that's the great thing for me. And again, I go back to fellow coaches, hey, that drill you were running, what was that? I love the energy. I love the pace of it. And, there you go. You get another piece of the arsenal, or another bullet to put in your gun for another training.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we could all go down and talk about the same stories as far as negatives, and
Sure.
And I don't know that we gain much from it, because like what we talk about, my players, both boys and girls, the focus is to be able to control the controllables. We can't control the ref. They're going to make calls that we feel are incorrect, and they're going to make calls that go in our favor that probably shouldn't have. So if we can control the controllables, worry about us, not worry about the environment, then good things will happen. And that's kind of the drive there with my players.
Smart. I like that. And yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, training is where the magic happens, and
For sure.
how the secret sauce is made. So if I were to ask, I assume you coached both of your daughters in soccer, right?
I didn't. I coached the
okay.
older one, and it was the worst thing I could have done. And I think she would tell you that, in the sense that, we go back to, I was a younger coach, and managing the wins and the losses and all that stuff, and then not having a line clearly defined separating my daughter from my player. Just it created strife, so much to the point to where when my younger daughter was getting older, and she was saying, can you be my coach? I'm like, I love you to death, and me loving you is telling you I'm not going to coach. So I'm gonna learn from those lessons. I'm gonna learn from being a coach. I'm gonna stand on the sidelines, be your biggest supporter, whether you're having a great day or a bad day. And she's a goalie, so we know one mistake can lead to a bad day. But yeah, unfortunately, she doesn't play anymore. She kind of fell out of love with the game, in part from coaching, and in part she's 16 and having money in her pocket and her job and school and all that has become more of a priority for her, which is okay. But yeah, I did not go down the coaching role with her. And I think we're all better off for it.
I have told friends and fellow coaches that one of the hardest yet most rewarding things that I've ever done in my coaching career has been to this point to coach my son.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure as my daughters get older that they may or may not be interested in soccer, so that could change probably daily, but we'll
Yep.
see. And I think that everything that we started with in terms of the self-reflection, the ability to take a step back, the peaks and valleys not being near what they used to be,
Right.
has really made the relationship between myself and my son 1,000 times better.
For
And
sure.
I, I got to a place, I don't know if it was a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, where I think I came to the realization if I would have continued doing what I was doing, I probably would have driven him away from soccer. He's at
Mm-hmm.
that age where many kids migrate away from the game. And for a number of reasons, right? They don't have the technical ability, or it's not fun anymore, or they just felt like this wasn't for them, or whatever reason they give. But as a coach, and it goes back to your point earlier, Shannon, that I remember going to school, elementary school in particular, that a number of my classmates, that their parent was a teacher in the school that I went to, and the teacher, mom or dad, was incredibly tough on that person growing up. I mean, held them to an unbelievable standard, almost an unrealistic standard too. And so you learn from what you see, you learn from former coaches, you learn from former teachers. And I thought sort of deploying that same strategy on my end would be effective. It blew up in my face in the
Mm-hmm.
absolute worst way. And and I know too now at the club level where the stakes are a little bit higher, and folks are paying a little bit more to play soccer, and things of that nature, that how I'm viewed and how I treat my son, I'm sure, is being observed. So I'm keenly aware of that. But I think um, I mean, what a great path of self exploration and self awareness it's taken me to. I can't say that I have it all figured out because I don't. We have our good days and we have our bad days, but we definitely have more good days. And I feel like you were in our car on Sunday afternoon driving back from our futsal match when my son was complaining about the referees. So
Mm-hmm.
uh, I'll have to pass that word of advice on from Coach Shannon to say that we can control the controllables. So I like that line. So I guess the last question I have as we wrap up, talk about sort of the family support and being able to chase after this dream you had, starting down this path years ago of, hey, I just went to watch my daughter play. I think I can do this. And this has led to all these other doors being open for you. Um, because my wife and I have this conversation, and she is unbelievably supportive of me, not only husband and father, but as a coach. And I always feel like she's going to give it to me straight, which I very much like. Her honesty. But what has that been like for you in terms of your family, wife, kids, extended family, whomever, friends that has had an impact on you in that way?
It's interesting because if you're not if you're not aware, there is a ton that goes on behind the scenes, right? Whether that's rewatching your matches from the weekend, or if you recorded your sessions, the reflection piece. We're working and tirelessly working to get better. So it's not you just show up at a training session or a game and everything's just done, right? Um, so my Sunday started. I think I left the house at 7:30 in the morning. I had two matches that were 40 miles away, and then I had our ODP session from 6 to 8 o'clock at night on Sunday night. And I think I got home around 9:30 at night, and that's it. It's a it's a crazy common weekend for me,
Hmm.
both Saturday and Sunday, and um, I kind of alluded to it earlier, where it can be somewhat lonely. So that piece of having friends that are coaches is fantastic because they lead that same kind of crazy lifestyle. It's not 9 to 5. We're working at night. For me, it's 5 nights of training a week and then games on the weekends. So you're always going, and that's hard on a family because you're not around, and so it's one of those careful what you wish for because
Hmm.
as I continue to try and improve and improve me as a coach, it means that you're taking on bigger roles and or different jobs, like the University of Puget Sound, the goalkeeping coach for that. On a Sunday, we won. I think Sunday we won the league. On Thursday, we were on a plane to Abilene, Texas, and making all of those plans to be in Texas, be away from your family. It was also a weekend where I was going to be not working, and I had rented a cabin, and
Mm.
so that got affected. And it's difficult. It's not easy. So you when you have the moments, make sure you appreciate them. Like this whole having to change that weekend. I've got to move it. So we're coming up on our winter break here, December 13th, I want to say. And I won't have anything except for ODP, and those are 3 sessions because we're getting ready to go to Phoenix in January. So I'll be home, and I got to make sure that I make the most of that. And um, the kids these days. My daughter's 16. She lives and dies by the phone. So thankfully, there's texting, and I can check in that way for sure. But um, like I said, it goes back to for me. I want to be challenged. I want to continue to grow. I want to reach different heights in my coaching career, and that means that I've got to be willing to put myself out there. One of the hardest things I did in a quite some time was I was part of the Region 4 staff in Colorado, and it was for 5 days, and we grinded. It was session after session after session and classroom session, and I think the first 2 days I was questioning whether I was even worth being there, and um, you get to a point to where you're like, why are you questioning yourself? You're fine. Just get comfortable, get in. And by the end of it, it was a fantastic experience that I grew immensely from. Just again, getting out of the comfort zone and trying different things. It leads to some pretty cool opportunities. I was talking to my goalies at UPS that I said, this game can take you some crazy places, and I was imploring them as their college days are coming to an end that when you graduate and you're back at home, if you wanted to get involved in coaching, reach out to me and I can help with finding a club and whatnot. But two women that could make a great impact in the game, and we all know that there's not enough female representation in the coaching ranks. So if we could get them involved, it'd be fantastic.
I love it. I love it. How can, if someone wants to connect with you on social media or just get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that?
My Twitter handle is ShanMatt72. So my first four of Shannon and my first four of Matthews. And no surprise, my year of my birth. So I'm old.
He's a
That's
good follow, by the way. I just
thank you.
I throw that in parenthetically. He's a big Chelsea fan, so if you're into that sort of thing.
So well, there's that.
Well, the last thing I'll say, so my son, who is a jack of all trades when it comes to picking a team, right? There's days he wants to be Ronaldo. There's days he loves Messi. There's days that whoever the flavor of the week is in the Premier League. And there's two teams in the Premier League he keeps coming back to pretty consistently, though. He likes Everton. I rubbed off on him.
Wonder where that came from.
Yeah. God, it's a curse. It's not really a blessing. It's definitely a curse. And then the other's Chelsea, and he actually has a Chelsea kit from when they're still with Adidas, and he wears it occasionally. So
Nice.
Yeah, not the worst thing if he ends up being a Chelsea fan. So
No.
there's room on that wagon, right?
Yeah, of course. There's plenty of room.
Okay.
But the great thing is he's watching the game, right?
Yeah.
It's such a big piece. And the Ronaldos and the Messis and all that. It's just he's around the game. He's seeing the game. He's seeing the expressions of Ronaldo and the dominant personality that he has versus a Messi and what he looks like. But he's around it. He's seeing it, and it helps him grow, which is fantastic. I'll be honest. I used to be one that I didn't want my players to necessarily celebrate a goal like that, and now I can't get enough of it. I absolutely love it. The hardest thing we do in this game is score a goal, so why not celebrate it?
Yeah.
As long as it's done tastefully and it's not crazy, go ahead, young man, young lady, go for it and love it. And you see more boys nowadays do that jumping Ronaldo celebration, and it's fantastic. There's nothing wrong with it.
I remember when my son, he scored a goal, this was, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years ago, and he did the knee slide and by the one of the corner flags. And you could tell that was perceived as, who is he trying to show up? And Shannon, I completely agree with your point. And I think, context is everything, right?
Yep.
If it is done tastefully, if it is done in a way that celebrates the game and is fun and really just shows the emotion that soccer can be, I have no problem with it. And I have no problem if my opponent does it, because they probably worked pretty hard to get that goal. So
without a doubt.
Yeah. So I, like everything in our sport, it's context. So
Absolutely.
Well, I probably kept you long enough, and I know you got to get ready for the rest of your day. But thank you. I can't thank you enough for coming on and talking to me, and you had some really great insight. And folks, if you get a chance, give Shannon a follow.
Appreciate that. I love the pod. I love the idea of the pod. So I will definitely be a big supporter of it.
Thanks for listening to my conversation with Shannon Matthews. Feel free to reach out to me at any time on Twitter or Instagram at SoccerCoachJB. Until next time, this has been the On the Touchline podcast.
The podcast you just heard was made using Anchor. Ever thought about making your own podcast? Anchor makes it really easy for anyone to get started. It's a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing podcasts. Best of all, it's 100% free. Sign up now at anchor.fm/new. That's anchor.fm/new to get started.